All right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we've got a ton of news to talk about for Starfield. Bethesda just hit a massive milestone for the release of Starfield. That bodes well for the future of this game and franchise. We've got some game-changing mods that have just been released that you guys are definitely going to want to try. We're also going to talk about the news that Starfield is now rated worse than Fallout 76 on the Steam platform. As we inch closer to Starfield being about a month old, we're going to talk about when the next big updates can release. And with Starfield already having its first DLC revealed named Shattered Space, we're going to talk about what that will include, as well as how big it's going to be, how much it's going to cost, and when we could expect a release date. Also, real quick, guys, if you'd like to win a PlayStation 5, I'm giving one away to a lucky subscriber. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel, comment your Twitter handle, tweet me proof that you're subscribed. I've got the full details in the pinned comment, as well as bonus entries. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, so check the video chapters to optimize your viewing experience. And without further delay, let's get into it. Starting things off, we've got our first bit of news, and that's coming from Bethesda Game Studios. The team recently announced that they hit a major milestone with Starfield's launch, and that is 10 million players have played Starfield. This bodes really well to the future of this game and franchise. According to the post, it says, "Thank you to more than 10 million Starfield explorers for creating the biggest launch in Bethesda history," which is actually pretty wild to think about. Like, this is 10 million players shortly after launch. And for this being a brand new game from Bethesda Game Studios, their first new IP in 25 years, it's an insane accomplishment, and it just bodes well to the future of the game. So for comparison, the multi-platform Skyrim sold 3.4 million physical copies in the first 48 hours of release, and then it shipped 7 million copies in the first week of the game's release. 2 years later, Skyrim climbed up to 20 million copies sold, and as of June of 2023, Skyrim has sold over 60 million copies. So yeah, the fact that Starfield has 10 million players this close to launch is a major win for the team, and it bodes well to the longevity of Starfield. Like, you know that there's going to be post-launch support now that there's 10 million players, and that number is going to continue to skyrocket as it lives on Game Pass and gets future DLC and, of course, mod support. And that is the perfect segue to our next topic, and that is Starfield is getting a ton of mods even before the creation kit is out, and some of these mods are completely game-changing. For instance, like the new seamless space flight mod that has taken the entire community by storm, because gone are the days of having to fast travel to every single location in Starfield, especially whenever it comes to inter-system travel. One of the biggest complaints that I've seen for Starfield, despite having confirmation that it wasn't going to be an option, is the in-system space travel. So essentially, you going from planet to planet without doing any type of fast traveling or cutscene or just loading screen. The mod is called Slower Than Light, Fly in a Star System. So the overview, according to the Nexus mod website, they said, simply put, the Slower Than Light plugin allows you to control the speed gears via hotkeys, with the highest gear being equivalent to more than 100 times the speed of light. They said that there's also a set of hotkeys for slowing down and resetting the current scene to fix the problem of planets not loading. They said the implementation of this mod is rather crude, and they're not able to get it perfectly done until the creation kit is released. Now, the craziest thing about all of this is the mod developer 105 Gun has never made a Bethesda mod before. This is their first time developing a Bethesda game mod, and it's just kind of crazy. The fact that we're getting mods like to this scale without the creation kit being available is pretty wild to me. Like, the sheer amount of things we're going to see made in Starfield because of creation kit will literally be out of this world. If you want to download the mod, it's called Slower Than Light. Like I said, I've got a link in the description. So kudos to 105 Gun for making this possible. So moving right along, Starfield just got another game-changing mod, but this one adds DLSS in a better way. It actually adds in-game options for DLSS for frame generation for those of you with a 4000 series card. Now, the entire saga for a DLSS mod will be coming to an end very soon once Bethesda adds it in-game. But if you play on PC and you want to maximize your performance and you've got a 4000 series card with frame generation, then adding this free DLSS mod is going to be a game-changing performance improvement for you guys. According to the mod description on the Nexus Mods website, I've got a link in the description. They said this mod does what it says. It enables support for NVIDIA's frame generation, DLSS, and reflex using Streamline SDK. It also embeds custom options for Starfield's display settings menu, which are automatically saved. The other mods that added DLSS and frame generation to the game were pretty solid. One of them was paid, unfortunately, but this one is a completely free mod, and it's by far the best one, not just because it's free, but it also allows you to edit the settings in-game rather than having to use a reshade overlay or having to restart every time you wanted to update settings. But yeah, like I said before, though, all of these mods will be pointless once Bethesda adds DLSS support to the game natively without having to mod the game, which is obviously really good news. Now, when that update's going to release, your guess is as good as mine, but hopefully it's sooner rather than later. Next up, there has been a big hot topic in the community regarding Starfield reviews. Well, according to the Steam database, Starfield is now reviewed lower than Fallout 76, which is just completely wild to me. So according to PC Games Den, according to the Starfield user reviews, they amount to an aggregated score of 71.72% according to SteamDB, and it places Starfield just slightly below Fallout 76 at a 71.76 compared to all other other Bethesda games, Starfield has a lower score than many of the studio's releases from the last 2 decades, they said. Fallout 4 is rated at an 81.88, Skyrim at a 93.88, Fallout 3 at a 78.52. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion has a higher rating at 93.76, as it does with Morrowind as well, they said, at a 93.14. And then the one that's the lowest is Fallout 4 VR, rating at a 60.92%. Now, this is of course the review aggregated score on the SteamDB from all of the users on Steam, giving it a 71.72, which is just kind of weird to me. Obviously, there's some players that have a bad experience with Starfield. One, they just weren't a fan of it. A lot of people thought the main story was kind of slow, even though I really enjoyed it. Needless to say, the overall review scores of Starfield has been a very hot topic in the community. A lot of people thinking that some of the reviews were just kind of outlandish, with Metro UK giving it a 6 out of 10, even though they're really salty, with IGN giving it a 7 out of 10, PC Gamer giving it a 7.5 out of 10, stating that it's a Bethesda's biggest RPG, but nowhere near its best. The Starfield Metacritic rating is sitting at an 84% based on 81 reviews. Now, in one camp, there's the fans of Bethesda games that have loved all of the games in the past and really enjoyed Starfield for what it was. And then there's the haters on the other side that are just like, this game is just mid. Why does anyone like it? The game shouldn't even deserve an 84. It should be a 54 just because Microsoft equals bad. So now that we are close to a month since Starfield's release and we've already had our first patch for the game, the question really remains, when is the next update coming and what is that going to contain? Obviously, with Starfield having 10 million players playing the game, there's bound to be issues and bugs and glitches that still have to be resolved, which they likely will. Starfield is the least buggy Bethesda game that I've ever played, but there are still some big issues with some quest blockers like the May Divine Red Mile quest. I'm still not able to complete that quest, which is really unfortunate because I want to complete the game 100%. So I really hope Bethesda gets that fixed soon. I don't want to have to enable console commands so that I can finally do the quest. There's also a massive Starfield glitch that allows you to get 9 million plus credits per hour. So yeah, that's a big one that I'm sure Bethesda will be getting sorted out. With performance being a hot topic on the PC version and on the Xbox version, I'm sure we're going to get some stability and performance improvements once the next update comes out. I'm guessing the next update will only be a hot fix rather than a full update, just like they did with the first update they released. The bigger additions like FOV slider and DLSS will likely happen in a future title update rather than just a regular patch, which I'm not expecting until sometime around the mid of next month. I'm hoping we do get a hot fix though for some of the quest blockers sometime hopefully next week, but we will have to wait and see. It might be pushed into the first week of October, but I doubt that. I think we're going to get an update pretty soon, as it has been quite a while since the last update that we got. Now, there's no denying the fact that Starfield is not a perfect game. In my review, I talked about some of the flaws as well as some of my positives, and I typically just don't give ratings for games. I think the thing that's causing so much tension throughout the entire community and the entire industry is video game review aggregates. Websites like OpenCritic and Metacritic basically take all of the reviews and then average them out into a singular score. There is a bit of vetting that happens, but not really on the Steam database. If you've played and owned the game, you're able to leave a review, and that review will affect the overall rating that determines whether the game is mostly positive, overwhelmingly positive, mostly negative, and so on and so forth. It seems lately that if a game doesn't hit a 90 rating on Metacritic or OpenCritic, then it's just a bad game, when that's not even close to being the case. It's just where the conversation is at nowadays. At the end of the day, the only review for games that matter is your own. People need to stop giving so much credence to game review aggregators like Metacritic and OpenCritic and the SteamDB. If you're on the fence about buying Starfield, I recommend checking out video reviews or even just live streams of the game. Like, there's so many times where I don't buy a game until I've watched a stream of it, and then once I see something that's intriguing or I kind of get the vibe about the game, then I'll make the decision if I want to pick the game up or not. So yeah, who cares about the Steam reviews? Who cares about the overall review scores of Starfield? Play the game or don't play the game. It's as simple as that. Moving right along, with Starfield already having the very first DLC revealed called Shattered Space, I'd like to talk about when that release day will happen and what it could potentially include. Now, for those of you that don't know, the first DLC for Starfield has already been revealed, and it is called Shattered Space. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to get a new location for the DLC or if it's going to be a situation where we get a new system that is a named system, similar to how Alpha Centauri is named, the Sol system, and so on and so forth. Basically, there's a bunch of dots that we don't have the name on them, but then there are some that are named locations. Now, in that system, I think there's going to be a location that will have life that is not human, that is intelligent life, and it will shatter how we think of the overall universe. One of the things that Todd Howard has talked about is finding alien life outside of the system that's intelligent, and I think that's going to be the theme of the first DLC. They like to have fun with their DLC. If you've ever played any Fallout DLC, then you know it's going to be pretty crazy. Like, Nuka World was insane, same with Far Harbor. Fallout 4 had amazing DLC, and if you haven't played them, I recommend checking them out. Now, obviously, just going off the name, it's hard to determine what this DLC will be about. I personally think it's going to have to do do with aliens, but the entire game has been kind of that sci-fi setting, so who knows what they decide to do. Now, as for when that's going to release, I think it's going to be a situation where it's going to come out sometime in the next year. If you guys remember how Fallout 4 did things, they had some smaller DLC like Automatron, and then a few months later we got Far Harbor. But I think for this one, they're going to have Shattered Space as the bigger story DLC and then release it sometime in the next year after they release mod support, which will likely happen early 2024. But either way, guys, I'm really excited to see what they add for the DLC of Starfield. Now that there's 10 million players on Starfield and it has financial success, it is all good news for the future support of this game. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Do me a favor and subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on if you enjoyed. Don't forget to enter the PS5 giveaway at the start of the video. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys again soon.